To say I'm impressed is an understatement because somebody kind of was just, tooling around, not really thinking too much about Michigan football. And then suddenly kind of came to around 1:30 and said, hey, you guys got about 3 hours to answer some Michigan football questions. And you showed up. We got a full show with this episode of the Michigan Mailbag right here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thursday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. I am impressed, honestly, because it used to be like to get 30 questions, I'd have to put out the mailbag call like at least a day before, at least. And I mean, I gave you all about 2.5 hours, and yet we have the full show. So let's go ahead and start with the leaders and best. James Crudup at James Crudup 6. You can only keep one. Sharon Moore or Dusty May. Which one are you keeping? When it's all said and done, which one ends up more successful at Michigan? Bro, that is a brutal question. Right now, I'm going to say Dusty May because both did more with less. That's the thing that's amazing about them. I think it's easier in basketball. That's why. Oh, no, it's not that it's easier. It's just I think that it is easier in basketball. But Dusty May's also shown that he can take a last place team and turn it into a Big Ten tournament team in 1 year. That's impressive. I don't know if Sharon Moore takes over like Rich Rod 2008 and turns it into Jim Harbaugh. Let's just at least say 2016. I don't know, right? So with that in mind, I'm impressed with Dusty May a little bit more. But that said, who do I think is probably more likely to win a championship? I think it's Sharon, honestly. Got the pieces even much more. But then again, if Axel Lendeborg comes to Ann Arbor, if he doesn't go to the draft, then maybe it could be next year for Michigan. Who knows? It's a push, man. That's a hard question. And I'm going to get ripped by people regardless. How dare you? How dare you not say Red Berenson? He's not even the coach of Michigan hockey anymore and hasn't been for a couple coaches now. But still. Josh Barr at Jadicki. Dusty seems to be killing it in the portal. I'm sure it's a mix of both, but how much of this do you attribute to the staff's recruiting prowess versus improved NIL? It's a 50-50. They're not going to be able to get guys like Axel Lindeborg or Elliot Cadeau, Morez Johnson to go flip internally inside the Big Ten, especially considering how much Illinois people don't like Michigan. And you can see that that's true of the team as well. I don't think you get that without strong NIL, but I think it also is the recruiting prowess. I mean, it's just absolutely phenomenal. Hopefully they are able to hold on to Axel. If they are, especially if they're adding a Damara, I mean, it just looks insane. It's exciting to kind of see some of these things kind of coalesce the way they are for Dusty. I don't have a lot more to say on that. It's basketball. Sorry, guys. Jimmy Whitner at Jimmy Whitner 1, who was the best hooper on the football team. It used to be Ronnie Bell, but who took his place? Oh, man, I have no idea. We haven't asked. I'm sure that question's been asked, and I probably tuned out. The problem is you ask anybody, like, who's the best whatever, and they always say, like, oh, I am. That's just how it goes. I don't know. I've heard some good things about Jyaire and Josiah Edmond from someone who played against them, but I have no idea. Sorry, I'm not going to try to answer that. Probably Donaven McCulley. He feels like that type of guy. Maybe, one of the 6'5" guys. Let's go with that. Is there any position switches that I'm excited about? Haven't really heard of really many like real, true, full-on position switches. Again, those who categorize Jayshawn Barham as a position switch, I think it's still linebacker with a code word that says go to the edge. Other than that, it's kind of more some guys working multiple positions within a unit. There isn't, to my knowledge, one like there's no defensive backs moving to wide receiver or vice versa at this point. So I don't think that there's anything right now that I can look at and say, yeah, that's a great switch, because everyone seems to be kind of in the same spot for the most part. Number 3, what are your remaining biggest questions with spring practice set to wrap up shortly? It's still wide receiver, even though we did the whole show yesterday. I get that we are starting to get some real positive affects in terms of like adulation from the internal. Here's the thing. Do I buy those things? Not necessarily. Would it happen without that? No, right? Like it's not going to just be like this grand secret too either, right? Like we're going to hear if like the wide receivers are really stepping up and there's a lot of depth and all this stuff and competition is actually making them better. We're going to hear of it. You know, it's not going to just be like, you know, New Mexico game and all of a sudden it's like, oh man, they're really flying around out there. We're going to have to hear of it first. So that would be the one place. Number 4, how is Zuri? She's good. She's been, she's still cutesy crazy. She's sleeping on the couch right now, probably listening to my voice from afar. But she's been calm today, which has been good because whenever I get on the phone with my mom, only if I'm on the couch. If I'm in the, if we're in bed, she doesn't care, but she just starts going nuts. But funny enough, my mom came over on, it must have been like Monday or Tuesday or something like that. And she was just crazy, pulling toys out of the basket and just showing off. It's just a puppy, even though she's 9 years old or around that. Hopefully she's more like 7. I have no idea. KRTF Farmer 84, any guesses for team captains this year? Do any younger players have a shot? Now, they definitely are going to want to try to keep it to the older players, and I think they've got enough to do that. I would go on defense. I mean, you got 2 entrenched guys, Rod Moore and Max Bredesen, both 5th-year guys. I think they'll both retain that. Giovanni El-Hadi on offense sounds like he's probably that dude. And then on defense, I think I would go with Rayshon Benny based off, or no, he might be the leader of the defensive tackle group. I'm going to digress. Ernest Hausman. I'm going to say it's Ernest Hausman. That would be, if they have 4 captains, that it would be those 4. But that's my guess. Jonathan Joseph at JJoseph2156. Who is the most important assistant coach on the team? At the moment, for better or worse, it's Grant Newsome. Because the team is going to go as far as the offensive line goes. Now, he has Juan Castillo's help. But if the offensive line is not good, then everything that we think this team can be is going to go out the window. But otherwise, it's like the defensive coaches are all overseeing position groups they oversaw already. They were already good by the end of the year. Offensively, it's just a little bit more questionable. I think Chip Lindsey would be that guy, but he's obviously got to call plays. But I mean, I don't think we worry too much about him. That's where I go as Grant Newsome. Finishing us out in segment 1, Spencer Whitmore at Spencer Whitmore. Have you ever seen Stallions being welcome? Do you ever see Stallions being welcomed back to Michigan, or is that a bridge down forever? I think he'll eventually be welcomed back. Yeah, I do. I know that's his hope, but yeah, I think based off of some conversations I had, I mean, there's still some saltiness there, but it's not. Eventually, it'll be water under the bridge. The healing, the forgiveness, and the healing will happen after the NCAA punishment. Also, are you going to watch Andor season 2? I mean, obviously. Listen, I have a harder time being a consumer of TV that compared to before I resubmitted to Christ, but I still watch TV, right? So yes, I will 100% be watching Andor season 2. Probably, much to the chagrin of a lot of believers out there. I'm really digging on The Chosen right now, and I have since I started watching it halfway through season 3. But I know there's a lot of believers that just are like, nah, I'm not chosen. They think it's so heretical. I don't find it to be that heretical, honestly. But and trust me, I am Mr. Find heresy, point out the false teachers, Christian. Judging within our own, within the faith, not outside of the faith, if that makes any sense. Anyway, I digress completely. But, all right. With that said, we are going to move on, although I do want to point out my really cool hat that I finally got. If you're watching on YouTube, dual purpose hat. It's actually a master's hat. It says amen on it, meaning amen corner, whatever. That's it. That's all. I'm just being a child playing show and tell. We're going to move on. We got more coming here in just a moment. But before we do, the NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. All right, we got plenty more coming up here. Starting with our Victor's Valiant Gym at Gym in the North. When Ben Herbert came in as strength and conditioning coach, we saw guys getting super pumped and in shape. We saw the results, I think, on the field. He was super involved with the kids. Do you think the current guy is as good or close? I do. Justin Tress. Keep in mind, it took Ben Herbert some time, right? He came in after the 2017 season. We didn't start seeing the real results until he had a full cycle, getting all the way to 2021. I do think that Justin Tress has picked up where he's left off. It might not be as glaring because, like, you go from one to the next and everything like that. And obviously the team wasn't quite as good last year, but that, there's just missing pieces around the whole team. But yes, I do think he is as good. I shouldn't say as good. I think he's close enough. Could he be as good once it's all said and done? I mean, he's young and he's not as scary as Ben Herbert. Ben Herbert is terrifying to have a conversation with. Like, the manliest dude that is going to shy away from looking Ben Herbert in the eyes. I mean, like, Jim Harbaugh is a pretty manly dude, right? And he talked about the first time he met Ben Herbert. He was like, I must avert your gaze. And that's how I felt the first couple times I talked to him. The last time I talked to him, I was determined. I'm like, I'm not going to break eye contact. We talked about guns, and that's the hilarious thing about Ben Herbert is he wants to be John Wick. Couldn't be any scarier anyway. Chubbs, GV, I talk with Chubbs. Do you see a scenario where Jaden Davis sticks around until it's his turn? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact that he didn't leave this offseason is kind of proof that anything can happen, right? Like, now, you might have to, if Bryce wins the job, which I expect to happen, we might be waiting a while and would have to wait till year 5. But that would, he could do that, really develop and, all of that. But there's no guarantees either. Maybe, NIL might make it possible if there's someone that's willing to make that worth his while. But in today's culture, I'd say it's unlikely, but it's possible. Edwin Simmons at Simmons_Edwin. Happy Thursday, my brother in Christ. Happy Thursday to you. God bless. What is the injury of the transfer portal QB, Mikey Keene? I get asked this again. I don't know. No one really actually knows as far as I know, right? They keep those things under wraps for the most part. We just know that he is injured and that it's not as serious as Jack Tuttle's injury last year, even though he played in the spring game. 2 years ago, he played in the spring game. He didn't play in the spring game last year, did he? Can you see a difference in the wide receiver room since Soup is back? And if so, what is it? It's too early again, I haven't seen it, so I couldn't tell you. But I think you can tell a difference in terms of just like the way they're talking about it. So that's good. Who will be running back number 3? I'm going to go with Benjamin Hall. I think Micah Capano will see some time as well. Wouldn't be surprised if you see a few Jasper Parker carries. But I think it's still primarily going to be Benjamin Hall. He's like the sole guy with that sole, like, I'm going to run over your face skill set with the body type to do it. Like, Justice Haynes can do that, but not, Ben Hall he's just huge. So there's that. Clark at Blue for Life 8. Besides quarterback, what position battle are you most intrigued by this spring heading into fall camp? Just thinking here, I'm not that intrigued with a lot of position groups, to be honest. Kind of an odd year in terms of that. It's like, I guess, like, wide receiver and offensive line are kind of the only places. Otherwise, it's like mostly you're looking at, like, offensive line might be a little more intriguing based off of what we kind of heard yesterday from Evan Link. But other than that, like, I'm pretty sure we kind of know all the starters generally. Like, feel pretty good about that, barring injury or someone coming out from nowhere, right? Like I'll just give them all to you right now. Starting quarterback, Bryce Underwood. Starting running back, Justice Haynes or Jordan Marshall. Offensive line, left to right, Evan Link, J.O.L. Hottie, Greg Crippen, Nathan Afobe, Andrew Sprague. Tight ends, Hogan Hansen and Marlon Klein. Defensive line, Derek Moore, Damon Payne. I guess that second guy next to, not Damon Payne, but Rayshon Benny. I'll throw Damon Payne in there. That's the big question, is who's that other guy next to, what's the rotation defensive tackle? TJ Guy, then Ernest Hausman, Jay-Sean Barham, Zeke Berry, nickel is the other place. That's the question mark. I'll throw Mason Curtis in at nickel for the moment because that's intriguing. Then not in spring but in fall, Rod Moore and Brandon Hillman, and then last but not least, Jyaire Hill. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's going to be that, or maybe like one or two names different. So that's where I'm at. LK Baird at Luke Baird 2016. So do we not need to fear because God is with us? I have to squint. Do not need to be dismayed because he is our God. Will he strengthen us and help us? Will he uphold us with his righteous right hand? Something I heard from a guy named Isaiah. That's Isaiah 41:10. We don't need to fear. But I when I think about that verse, I don't think about it quite in the same way as Jeremiah 29:11. I think it's a little bit more broad, but it is kind of like specific prophecy for a specific time. Not as specific as Jeremiah 29:11. Contextually, that's more of just God's heart. But it all holds true. But I'm also Mr. Keep Scripture in Context guy, and I might be a little stricter than most when it comes to that too. But it is an amazing and powerful verse. And I'm studying Isaiah right now. I just finished reading it and a book on Isaiah, and I just started it again yesterday. I never read My Namesake until my adult life. Great Bambino X at Colossus O'Cloud X. With the new roster rules, should we expect to see departures this spring, I assume? You think the 2 deep could be a surprise departure like DJ Waller last year? You get the same sense that Amarian Walker is on his way out again, given that he hasn't been assigned a number. No, with Amarian Walker, I think if I was to guess, there's something academic going on that he's got to clear up, and once he clears it up, he'll get a number. Do I think there could be a surprise? Absolutely. I think Michigan airing the spring game after the portals closed helps that they won't. And then as far as the roster rules, that's still a big wait and see because the House has been talking about having some kind of grace period to get down to 105, which I think they should. I think they absolutely should. Because it's kind of weird just 1 year in the middle of the year, just be like, all right, you've got to broom 30 players. Bye. Brett Beyer at Brett Bear. I always do this twice because I don't know how to pronounce your name. And maybe you've corrected me and I never know. Who's emerging as the number 1, 2, and 3 wide receivers? Oh, that's who I forgot to mention in my breakdown. So perfect. I'd say right now it's Donaven, McCulley. I'll go with Semaj for the moment, though I think Anthony Simpson will overtake him. And Fred Moore. But I also think Jamar Browder's kind of in there, and so is Andrew Marsh. And he says, is Andrew Marsh going to be targeted this year? Is he standing out in the spring? I've heard good things. Not as many as I've heard about Jamar Browder, but I've heard good things. Jacob Shavaria at Shavaria. I'll see you at the spring game. Make sure that you hit me up, and you're probably going to have to come down to the wall during the game or something and say hi. What's your favorite concession food to go get at the game? Now, we in the media don't go to concessions because they feed us in either the photo room or up in the press box. So, now I do get to go through the Sodexo sweets thing, and it's usually there was trying to remember what it was. I have a video on TikTok that you can find about those, but those they started selling them around the concourse, but there were these sliders that I think were the number one thing for me. There were hot dogs the year before that were didn't realize I could love a hot dog this much. So that would be the other one. All right, we're running out of time. I'm going so slow here. I'm not the one at William Cawthorne 9 with 4. I'm going to rush through them, man, since you asked 4. It's better have expectations be let down when they're not met, or have low expectations be surprised when they're exceeded. Somewhere in the middle. Although 2021 was fun for the sake of the expectations were low, they exceeded them, and that made the year feel particularly special. 2023, everyone expected Michigan, and at least Michigan fans expected to win the championship, and they did. So you can answer that yourself. And then last year, obviously, was what it was. If JD is and Jaden Davis quarterback 1 when the season starts, what would that mean about the team? It would just mean that Bryce still has some work to do in terms of recognizing defenses and protections and stuff like that. Is Sean McGee leaving? Now, the only thing I know is that Navy's his dream job. It's his alma mater. If they offer and it's a good financial incentive, I'd have a hard time seeing him staying, which would be really disappointing on multiple levels. Who on the coaching staff not named Moore Martindale is the most crucial to the team? Now, I said the most important coach to the team right now is Grant Newsome, but to add Chip Lindsey, because if the offense is just competent, then Michigan's going to be extremely good this year. Lonnie Dub at Lonnie Dub. Actually, it's Lonnie Dub. Anyway, no question, but thank you for all the hard work you do. Your podcast and everything is much appreciated. Have an amazing day. I appreciate it, man. DE Wolverine at KMoss_11. Is Mikey Keene going to be in the rotation, or is the QB rotation changed because of his injury? I'm sure he could be in the rotation. It's too early for me to say, to be honest. The Regan Raider at Hamstand 87. What's worse, sign stealing or stealing cash from players like Berm and Austin Ward over at Buckeye Huddle? There are allegations. Listen, I love Berm. I don't really know Austin. I do love Berm. It's not proven yet. The same thing I keep on saying like, let's not throw stones in glass houses. Now, I don't know that any of that is happening in Ann Arbor, but just given all of the vitriol that we've seen, like, let's not amplify it. Actual question: where's Andrew Babalola project to play when and if he starts? Probably left tackle. I mean, it could be right, but I'm going to guess left. Generic at ERKJ72. Your too early prediction of Heisman finalist that will eventually lose out to Bryce Underwood. Hard to tell who's like. I think Caleb Downs will get that type of pub. Arch Manning. Like, this doesn't feel like a college football that has a heck of a lot of stars in it, especially at the quarterback position, because you expect them all to be quarterbacks. Just for fun, let's say Garrett Nussmeier. You know what? I'm going to take him away. I'm going to say DJ Lagway. And then maybe a receiver. So, unfortunately, we'll go with Jeremiah Smith. Ohio State will get 2 invites. Yeah, I think, unfortunately, that's going to be the case. Finishing us out in segment 2, Nunya Biz at U of M fan _for life. What's the word on Keene's injury? Are we looking for a spring portal QB, or are we now in the same position as last year? There's no one worth grabbing. Well, it's not open, so it's kind of hard to tell. We talked about Keene's injury, but I think they'll keep their eye out, but it's also a hard thing to try to get someone in. So anyway, all right, we still got plenty more. Not a heck of a lot of time, so we will get to all of those here in just a moment. All right, let's close it out with the Blue Crew. Pistons, Famo, I don't know. Fear Av missing out? I don't know. If Michigan grabs another wide receiver from the portal, what type of guy would you expect them to add? It's kind of hard to say because they've targeted Sincere Brown, who's another 6'5" guy. If Skylar Bell isn't like a big, tall guy, I just think they want someone that's like a game breaker, a guy with experience that can really do something. So kind of hard to tell. Looking for a win at Kunks Jr. Do you see a punter coming in? It's possible. I know that that's on the docket, but like, I think that they're happy with what we've seen from Hudson Hollenbeck, but I don't think that they necessarily feel like it's a sure thing. We'll see. At Yoder77, how good does Jaden Davis look so far this spring? As far as what we've heard, he looks pretty good, and certainly has improved, and seems like he's just worlds ahead of where he was when he came in as a freshman. Not surprising, but do I think that's enough? I don't. Eric W. at Kinetic 616, who is leading for defensive tackle 2 on the depth chart? That's where I don't know, but it kind of doesn't matter. They're going to have a rotation of 6 guys just constantly moving in and out. Like, they're all basically, as Lou Esposito said, they're kind of 6 starters. Kind of doesn't really matter, to be honest. Jobs finished. Daddy champions at MGO Blue BA. Our wide receiver group worries me again this year. I know QB play wasn't good last year, but no one got open. Do you see that changing this year? Who stood out from that group? I mean, I think people were getting open, like, but in the latter half of the year, especially like some of those games, like, it just felt like guys were running open like constantly. Quarterbacks either didn't see him or couldn't hit him. Illinois game was particularly frustrating, but I think Fred Moore is probably your top guy. I can't remember his name, but I want to give a shout out to who pointed out that Kendrick Bell had surgery. If they sent me this on Instagram, so that's why we haven't heard of him. As far as the guys returning, I think, maybe that's certainly Fred Moore, and it kind of sounds like Semaj maybe as well. MBT at Maize and Blue True. God bless. Hope all is well. Thank you. God bless you as well. Probably too early, but curious. Who is your starting 5 in the secondary? What it would look like to start this year? Obviously, I answered that earlier inadvertently, but I think 4 for sure. Zeke Berry and Jyaire at boundary is going to be my guess. Rod Moore and Brandon Hillman and at the safeties, and then it's just a question of nickel. And so, I mean, you could go Mason Curtis, you could go any number of guys, to be honest. Go Jaden Mangum. But there's that. I'm going to go with Mason Curtis right now, personally. There's another name there I just can't think of at the moment. Brad Go Blue 85. Do you think Mikey Keene will stick around all year if Underwood is the clear starter? Yeah, because I think he kind of knew that was a possibility. And he's more of like, I want to go the coaching track like Jack Tuttle. So I don't think it's a situation where it's like, I have to play in order to increase my draft stock. So another one from Eric. I didn't notice you did too. Are you going to be at the spring game? Chance to meet you there would be awesome. Same thing as I said to Chevrolet. Just try to hit me up if I can get a signal on the field and have a moment. We'll figure that out. Sometime we'll set up like a fan meet at some point. I know some people are talking about doing one the night before the Northwestern game, but that's in Chicago. So someday we'll do one in Ann Arbor or around Ann Arbor. Have everyone over to my house, Benton. I don't know. Ted D at retired Ted D. I hadn't heard much about Channing Goodwin until I read last night that he's been quite impressive this spring and expected to play a role in the offense this season. Have you heard anything specific about him this spring? Can you speak also about the progress of the wide receiver position? We'd have a whole show on that from yesterday, so I defer to that for the lack of time. Channing Goodwin has seemingly made an impression here that he's really good at going up and high pointing the ball. Kind of heard that he's got that ability, that NFL pedigree in his bones, and that's really played a big role for him. So there's that. Again, second-year guys tend to make that step, so not surprising. ZC Jones at _Zach Jones with multiple S's. What player on the roster from O&D do you think take the biggest leap, show the most progress this year compared to last year? Jayshon Barham, I'm going to go on the defensive side. I think he's going to look like how we thought he was going to look going into last year. And then on offense, let's see. It's kind of hard because I can't say like Jordan Marshall. It doesn't really count. So I'd have to say receiver. So we'll go Fred Moore. I think Fred Moore is going to be really. All right, I'm watching the clock here. And camera time is different than the other time. We got 2 more. Brandon Johnson with some O's in there zeros instead of O's. Do you still expect Michigan to land Jackson Cantwell? He tweeted today that his recruitment is closer to the end than he thought. It kind of seems like it's drifting away from Michigan. I think if they had more time, yes, but I think the McGee stuff mixed with it sounds like someone made a really solid financial offer. Sounds like things are kind of just in like a typical limbo. Michigan wants to wait till June to kind of lock these things down. It kind of sounds to me like a team like Miami's one of his finalists. Wouldn't surprise me if he ends up in Miami. Oregon and Miami are those 2 financial teams, right? And they're 2, I think, of his 3 of. I mean, he's got 5 finalists, but 2 of the 3 that were mentioned by Steve Wiltfong. Now, could they still end up landing him? Yeah, I mean, Bryce Underwood was at LSU this time last year. No one thought that Michigan ever had a chance to land Bryce Underwood. So there's that. Finishing us out altogether is Kev at Kev D11 or II22. What should we expect out of the running back room this season? I think you'll see somewhere around 2,700 to 3,000 yards, depending on how many games they have. I think you'll see more than 1,000-yard rusher. I think it's going to be very good. So that's all I got there. That's going to do it for us today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you again soon. Peace.